So this is a pre-recording for November, which I like to call Men's Health Month. It's Movember, it's Grow a Mustache for Men's Health, but there's so much more that we can actually do for men for their health. So thank you, Dr. Eldon Dahl, for joining me. Do you want to just give a little bit of your background, because you have so much of it and so much experience. Thanks again for joining me for Men's Health.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Yeah, my background goes back in the natural health industry probably till 1986. And at that time, I had a health store. And then I think even if I can go back even further, I think my background is right from infancy in the natural health industry. My mother took us to naturopathic doctors. She was on a naturopathic prenatal formula when I was born. So I went to naturopaths all my life. And so it was just a way of life for me. I really seen a big difference when I went to medical doctors and naturopaths, but they were both proven sciences, and I had equal respect for both. And then I came to a situation when I was 10, and this was my cousin's funeral, and she was 10. And I've never seen death before like this. And I'm standing in front of her coffin, and I had this sudden awareness that, you know, she's a child. She's like me. That could be me. And I looked around the room, and there are a lot of older people in the crowd. And I'm thinking, usually, aren't they supposed to be here? The old people die and not the young ones. This is what I was thinking at that age. And it really impacted my life in a big way, because she did everything in the medical route, advised her to do, and then she died. And then I started seeing death all over. I started to pay attention. And so most kids were probably, playing. I was reading medical books. I was in our Encyclopedia Britannica. And then I started to go to the library, and I started to do research on clinical studies. And I'm 10. And I started to ask my naturopaths all kind of questions, and my medical doctor all kind of questions. And then I started to look at people differently, people that were coughing or kind of sick, or I would look at things that in their expression or their eyes, and started to look in Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathic medicine, and try to figure out what was going on. And I did this probably all the way through my teen years. And I went into nutrition and took all my training in nutrition. And then I went back to school and graduated as a naturopathic doctor in 1988, and went into clinical practice and created formulas for my patients that were deathly ill because they exhausted the medical route. They went through the whole channel of the medical system because basically it was free, and there was no, because they believed in the system. And so then I started to see stage 4 cancer, full-blown AIDS at the time in the early 90s, neuromuscular disorders, MS, ALS, you name it, they all came to me, and sometimes a wheelchair, sometimes intravenous in their carrying when they're walking in the office. Many came directly from the hospital with only a couple of weeks to live, and they were just leaving the hospital, came directly to my office. And it was overwhelming because I'm a young naturopath. I'm supposed to be working on prevention. And prevention is not there. These people already have it. And so I created formulas, even though they weren't available in Canada. I had to order raw materials from Europe and Japan, and started to compound for my patients' needs. And I created a product line for them, and people started to get better. And lifestyle changes, they improved. And the one thing that I noticed the most of all patients that came is that they all had so much fear. They were bound in fear when they came to see me. And the one lady, I have her in my mind right now, and she came, turban wrapped around her head. She had so many radiation treatments that her skull was so thin that if it hit, it could crack her whole skull. And she was just shaking, her daughter holding her hand, sitting across from me, and says, I just left the hospital, I have 2 weeks to live. You're my only hope. And you look at somebody like that, and I looked up skyward and I said, oh God, what do I do? And then so I said to her, where there's breath, there's hope. And I said, you came here and I'm going to help you all I can. And she didn't die in 2 weeks. She lasted about 9 months, and she died in dignity with no fear. And so this is where I see the problem lying. And so then we developed a full product line, Life Choice, based on that science. So we source our raw materials completely different than anyone else in the industry. I'm probably a relic, probably like a lighthouse sitting on a hill, and everybody is going with the navigational equipment, and here I am just having the signals going. But what it is we create something different, and people that try our products, they work. They work. They can get transition off drugs. They can improve their life. And usually you don't have to wonder if the product worked. You'll know within a few days or within hours of using our products. That's the difference. And so we never changed our quality line. So we keep that quality, and it's harder and harder and harder to get. And this is where we're at today. So I've been doing this for now. This is going on to this is my 36th year. In April, it'll be 37 years in the health industry, and we're trying to heal the people.
So you had mentioned that you looked into Ayurveda as well. What made you choose the naturopathic route versus the Ayurvedic route? Or do you incorporate some of that in, or did you incorporate some of that into your practice as well?
Well, I incorporated that into my practice, yeah. I took naturopathic medicine because that was what I was familiar with. I went to naturopathic doctors, and I seen them as an alternative. I seen that there was colleges located. I seen that they were readily available in Canada, although looked upon at that time like, just you're a snake oil salesman. I was consulting with a patient in the hospital, and I was talking with the doctor attending, and we were getting along great until I said something about what about their diet, and he looks at me, says, their diet, and he says, what kind of doctor are you? Well, I says, I'm a naturopath. Oh boy, that look! I tell you, that look on his face of disgust. Looked at me like I was a filthy beggar. He grabbed the file from my hand, says, you have no right to be here. And then I walked away. And when I was walking away, I says, he's right. This is a place where people aren't coming here to get healthy. This is not a hospital. It's not a place where people come to get healthy. They usually come there to die or to have something cut out or some surgery in an emergency. It's not a health place at all. And so that was the thing. And so that's why I went into naturopathic medicine.
Right. Yeah, that, and it's interesting, the stigma I find that goes along with being in the natural health industry. Even just years ago, like I used to be in the medical field before I went into this part, and just familiar with certain things. And my son ended up with appendicitis anyway, and I just pushed down a certain part of his abdomen, sent him through the roof. I'm like, okay, you have appendicitis. I just know this. But he had been sent home from a physician at a local hospital. As soon as my husband had mentioned, well, he said, well, what are you doing for it? And my husband's like, well, my wife has a health food store, and he just right away rolled his eyes. Didn't do a CBC blood work, which would have showed an elevated white blood cell count, and did none of that. And right away, oh, it's just the flu. We just give him Pedialyte, sent him home. And like 6-8 hours later, he was in surgery for appendicitis, right? So
Yeah.
that has to, there is a place for all medicine. If we can just recognize, like, yes, we need, emergency medicine for when we fracture a bone, or we need whatever, right? That's emergency medicine, right? But like you said, like, hospitals are not necessarily places where people go to get well. They get treated for certain things, but the wellness part, you almost have to hit up the prevention side or the repair side, which is come over here now, right?
Yeah, it should be a two-part process. If I'm in an accident and I have my arm, the back of my in my back and it's hanging, then you give me morphine and you take that pain away and you treat me. That's what they're for. I'm not going to go sit with a naturopath. Hey, can you take my arm off the back? That is where you got to go. And so this is, they both have their place. And I respect both models, but I think the people need to have a choice on how they have their health care. And I think that we see that there's a monopoly for the medical route, and it's basically we have to pay our own way in naturopathic medicine.
Now let's talk men's health. Let's talk about men. Okay, so because you're a man, about men's mindset, like just trying to understand. So I find, and I guess in some way women are like this too, but it takes a health crisis to make your health front and center. And you know what, women are like that too, though. They give, take care, and completely deplete themselves,
Right.
Being family and running around all these things, and then bearing children, that's depleting enough. What have you seen in your career, and any tips that you might have to just or warning signs or things? Because I just find it's very hard to get men to ask for help without just having a massive crisis. And it's like, can we change that? I don't like using the word stigma because everyone uses it, but it's well, men don't cry. Well, okay, let's just break that down for a minute. How about emotions and what happens when we store those or we don't deal with those? What happens there?
Well, when they say that men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that's true. We men are completely different. I would probably, if I didn't have the upbringing I have, I wouldn't be into this field at all. Probably, I would just go about my way, and what comes, and that's what it is. Just give me my beer and some sports, and I'd be just happy, and I'll hang out with my buddies. And when it comes to health, I'll deal with it when it comes. If something happens, well, we'll handle that when it happens. And there's not men don't think prevention, and they're not caregivers like women. Men are doing a lot better now. You can see them more in the home and taking care of children, but men are not caregivers. I mean, that's what women are. That their whole nature and body has been designed this way. And so men are not. So men are masculine. They are to be the protectors of the home. The head of the family is how we used to have it. And so men don't think on the level of, like, what can I do to prevent something from happening? And what direction do I look in? And if you go the medical route, well, you'll go in and get your yearly exam and say you're good. And from that point of view, you don't do anything else because the doctor said, I feel good, nothing hurts, so I'm good. And that's how men evaluate life until they come to a crisis in their life. And then what they usually do is they'll want to get that solved as quickly as possible and move on and go back to their regular way of life. You don't see men, well, maybe nowadays you got all kind of things going on, but men in general, you don't see them taking care of their skin with, trying to rehydrate their skin. Well, they'll take care of their hair if they have it, depending on the age. Yeah, and they'll try to, be physically in good shape as they can. But if they're not, it's okay. It's a double standard, comparing a man to a woman. If we are to compare, say with mine, I got a little bit of snow on the side. And then I've been told, well, women find that sexy. But if I were to have that, a woman told me, gray hair, you'll look at me as, oh, that's an old hag. And she said it just like that. And I'm thinking, yeah, that doesn't seem like an equal level, but this is how we are. So men are different, and we when we're going along, we feel a responsibility to be masculine. We feel like we have to be there to be strong, and we have to keep the family in order, and we rely in the household. That's the woman's domain. Someone takes the children, the women take care of that. And we're quite happy to allow that to pass over that authority to her. You take care of that, honey. I'm just going to do my thing. And this is what they do. And we've come a long way from the man working, the woman staying at home, and him coming home and saying, oh, I'm exhausted. And, you just stayed home all day. You didn't do nothing. And that's how we have a whole. Thank God that we've come a long ways with equality of the sexes, which I think is a great thing. But men are different, and our bodies are different. They function different. We don't have the issues that women do. We don't menstruate. I'm sure not disappointed about that. But that changes everything when you have your body that goes through a cycle every month that changes everything. Men don't have that. So this is where men, I think, have to take action in their life in a preventative way. And I look at things as, you can age, and and you can age gracefully, or you can age prematurely. But what you're going to age, no matter what, aging is healthy. But I like to focus on premature aging and how we can avoid that. And this is how I've lived my life. I attended, I think, probably about 27 years ago, the anti-aging conference in Monaco, the first one of the kind, and they had people that were renowned at the time. And I got into this conference, and it was fascinating. And they were talking about thyroid health, and that they were saying at that time 80% of the population were thyroid deficient. And I think today we're talking 100% of the population is thyroid deficient one way or the other. And they were also talking about neurotropics and how that you can take these products for preventing the aging process of the brain. And we heard this one fellow talk about human growth hormone and how beneficial it was. And of course, it was very expensive, but it was very beneficial. And then as soon as I started to hear him speak, I thought, that's what I'm going to create. That's what I'm going to create. And I said, and I'm not going to sell it. That's going to be just for me. And that's what I did. I went home and I created a homeopathic human growth hormone. And I started to take it, and the results were phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. And I loved it, how I felt. And then I started to do more things. Probably back in the 80s, life extension book. I read that by Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw. And I started to follow their principles on what they did. They used enormous amounts of supplement, the potency, just to test it. And that's what I started to do. I used to use big amounts of supplements, potency, to create products. And of course, I wouldn't put those in the higher amounts into formulas, but I tested it to see how you could change the body and have the body not just age prematurely, but you could have the body age as it should, not chronologically, not biologically. So you just go your date, your birth, but you go the calendar, but your body is biologically functioning different. And so this is where men can do many, many things to improve their health, and simple things. It doesn't have to be extreme, but we just need to be aware and conscious that there is two different ways to age. And one is if you allow the body just to go and then deal with it as it comes, or take action and take preparations in a preventative manner. And so this is where it is. I mean, we look at men's health in the last, I guess, probably the last 30, 40 years, and we've seen a decline in men's health. I mean, we've seen sperm counts I think this is about 2013 at the time, it dropped by 59%. And they say that if it continues at this rate by 2045, men will have no sperm.
So why do you think that is? So one thing that you touched on a little while back was hair loss, and that's a lot of times men come in and they're worried about that. And from what I understand with hair loss, is it can be the dihydroxytestosterone, DHT. That's a form of estrogen in the man's body, is it not?
It is, and estrogen levels, inorganic estrogen levels are skyrocketing in our food, in our diet, in the environment. And so this is a big problem for both men and women. But men, you'll find, and also hair loss could be autoimmune disorders too, triggering. Alopecia is autoimmune disorders, and you see men balding much greater today than you did before. I mean, you just see it, it's abundant. And I think this is a problem because of the breakdown of the food, the environmental toxins, the heavy metal toxicity. I see this as our change in relying on foreign foods into our diet. We don't grow our own food anymore. Everything is imported. China is a big factor in the marketplace. We see a lot of these third world countries growing food using sewage sludge as a basis of fertilizer, and sewage sludge reduces testosterone levels in the body. It's been proven. We see fish in the streams that are feminizing. This is because of the runoff and the genetically modified organisms in the body. They create trans genes within the body, and trans genes change the genetic DNA structure of the body. And so we see an accumulation of these, and then from the soil we don't have our minerals they're lacking, and we don't have some of our trace minerals. They're non-existent unless you take them. Lithium is a trace mineral that's very, very important. And then we also say zinc next to magnesium is one of the least absorbed that we have in our body. Most men are lacking zinc. And the problem that I see with zinc is they go and take the zinc gluconate, or they take another form of zinc, but the body doesn't absorb it. Even if from meat, they don't absorb it. And so many, when they're taking zinc supplements, they're not absorbing the zinc, because what happens is our bodies has a reaction system. And the gut lining, that works in a negative charge. And when zinc enters the body, it comes in as a positive charge. And so it can't penetrate through the intestinal wall. And so this is where you're finding zinc is a deficiency in society, but it's extremely important for men. And I used to say, a little crude statement, zinc for the dink. That's what they say. And I find it is very specific for men's health. And we found that, with this whole COVID crisis, that zinc was a deficiency that was, it was global. And so what we did is in the research, all the research that I've been through on zinc, is the form that passes the intestinal wall is zinc picolinate, because picolinic acid works like a cloaking device, and it takes the zinc element and it coats it, and it can be able to pass through the intestinal wall up to 8 times greater than all the other forms of zinc.
Kind of like a liposome around something, right? A liposome or a micelle.
Yeah, it works almost like that. Mm-hmm. And so it can pass and deliver directly to the cells. So it's a simple thing. They'll take zinc, they'll go to the drugstore or whatever, or a health store, and they'll buy what's on sale. And think, I'm taking zinc, it's not working. And of course, this regulates sperm count too. And so there's several factors on what zinc is very important. And another thing that men can do, and it's fairly simple, is take L-arginine. Now, L-arginine is, and the problem with L-arginine is because now the China factor, I said, again, it's a newsletter I put out today, is from good to great. It's maybe a lot of the people in the health industry won't like it. They won't like it to see that, but it's the truth. I'm just bringing out the facts of what's going on in the China factor and how our industry has changed dramatically since I entered this industry completely. It looks on the surface very healthy, but it's not. It's just not. And so the thing is with arginine most of the arginine on the market today is made by chemically extracted arginine, and they use it either the starting position when they produce it is by sewage sludge, horsehair, duck feathers, or human hair, and then they develop and create the arginine. Whereas we still make arginine, but we don't make it singly because we couldn't sell it. People wouldn't pay the price of that fermented L-arginine. That works. It starts out from, say, sugar beets, or and then it ferments. It takes longer. The process is much greater and more expensive. Sometimes 4 to 5 times as great. Like L-tryptophan that we buy, fermented 10 times as great. Well, for arginine, we put it in our fiery male product. And we have to wait probably, I think, 6 months to get the form of arginine we put in this. Whereas I can buy any day I want. I can phone any supplier in Canada for raw material and get Chinese material today.
Yeah, that's another one with NAC too, right? And N-acetylcysteine is another one. It's hard to get something that isn't from China as well.
Oh, it was hard to get a lot of stuff now. It's dramatic. China, I was talking at the CHFA trade show with the raw material supplier, and of course he said, "You're my most difficult customer to deal with. You always want quality." And he says to me, I said, "I just don't want to deal with China." He says, "Eldon," he said, "without China, there is no business." And I had a colleague with me, and because I'm telling him these things, but I wanted to hear directly from this supplier. I said, "Tell him, how much of the raw materials being supplied in the natural health industry come from China?" 95%. I said, "How much of it is USP grade?" 0. I said, what is the grade? Feed grade. I said, there you go. And I said to my colleague that I've been preaching it for years, and he could answer anything he wanted to tell you. And he told you what's going on. These are the facts. These are the facts. And so we've changed the whole structure of raw material sourcing. I mean, it looks great on the label. The product has an NPN by Health Canada. And when you look at the ingredients, if you don't know what to look for, if we say fermented, but somebody will say fermented, it's fermented. You won't know. The education process is massive to get the people to understand, because we don't have the money that pharma does. We don't have Nestle's money. They're buying out all the health companies, but we don't have Nestle's money. And so they're just start slowly eroding the quality of all the products that they take over, because the bottom line is shareholders' profits, right? They're not, oh, take care of that customer and let's get them the best USP grade raw material. Forget it. They don't think that way. These are corporate
bottom line. Yeah, it's the bottom line always. And I know it's hard, like, you find out that a company's been bought out and it's like, and you find that the quality does go down when it is a larger, usually, and they're like, well, it's for better advertising, we have more money. And I'm like, what does Clorox need to do with a natural health company? What does a bleach company need? So it's just a little, it feels icky after a while, and it's hard. So it's nice to know that there are companies and products and things out there that have more integrity. It's the integrity that I think we're lacking, and we're suffering for it, because when you cut corners on anything, how does that ever get you anywhere good, right? And that includes on what you're putting in your body, and that's the thing. Like, it's the culture of how we eat or when we eat, and the types of things we're consuming. You have to be, it seems like it's a big downward spiral, and people wondering why their health is ailing and why they're gaining weight, or why the erectile dysfunction is on the rise even in young men. They have more estrogen than testosterone. Like, you need that, you need those things. So there's so much, like I was talking about, like erectile dysfunction happening as young as like in their 20s or teens, or low testosterone, low sperm count. Like, that's concerning on all levels, but it's like, what's contributing to that? I think we talked about that before, what you said, like the improper soils, the zinc deficiencies, how does stress come into play there? Because it seems like stress is pretty rampant here too. So,
well, there's been a degradation of most things in society today. Our diet, our ways of dealing with things, stress levels are through the roof. We don't know how to act, since this whole COVID thing, and it's all this change of gender and how to address different, we don't even know how to respond. We feel like we like to speak something, speak our truth to someone else, but we don't know how it'll be accepted, especially in a crowd. And so I think for men, and I think women, all people in general, we have to recognize that we are really declining and aging and becoming sicker much more readily than we have in the past, because of all these conditions piling up. Really, there's no government oversight on anything that's put into, like, herbicides, pesticides, what we have coming in, even though it's sometimes stamped USDA certified organic from China and other parts in the Middle East and stuff like this. The Kessler report is a really good one. It's a while back that he reported on what's coming in from China. That was presented to the EU. And so we're seeing that we have a real degradation, like I say. So what we need to do is to take things in a proactive way and to recognize that we are having conditions that are attacking our body that is not normal. And there's also, of course, what the sun is doing, radiation, the weakening magnetic shield is here. We have, of course, 5G is coming out. We have people, half of our country, according to statistics, have been taken an experimental jab. And we don't know the results of that, long-term effects yet, because it's still experimental till next year. All these factors are coming into play. And then our diet, of course, because they don't have to label a lot of things. And we believe in what if it's sold in the health store, it must be good. Or if it's sold in a grocery store, we wouldn't put it there if it wasn't good for us. Well, this is the philosophy that we need to change. Mm-hmm. We need to recognize and use our critical thinking. And I don't know if that's been outlawed or not yet, but I think
it's a rarity.
Obsolete.
It's a rarity. So is common sense not so common anymore?
Yeah, no, it's not common at all. I think what we need to do, some of the basics that are healthy for men is regular sex. So I know that they're not going to probably argue with that fact. Mm-hmm. So that I got their support on this, mm-hmm. because what it does is helps to keep the testicles pure and clean. It drains them out. It helps to reduce the prostate. So that helps to get rid of the backup. And so this is important. And I think especially in a long-term relationship, we find this declining. And of course, there's a whole lot of factors on this, and I'm not going to start counseling on this subject. I wrote about it, but I'm not going to get into that now. But there's a lot of factors that come into play. But this is something that needs to be done on a regular basis, both mm-hmm. men and it's just so healthy. Mm-hmm. And simple things that men can do is don't wear tight-fitting underwear. Mm-hmm. Something like boxer shorts are very good because the testicles need to have a cooler environment for creating the sperm count. But we have to consider. I had an example of. Used to have our sales rep in Alberta, and he and his wife were trying to have children. They went to all kind of clinics. They tried to do everything they could, but they just could not become pregnant. And so they made an appointment with me, and I sat down with them. We went into their diet, their lifestyle, and what they were doing, and I put them on a protocol. And the protocol was, I gave them the man, fire male, gave the women HGH. The woman, she was taking, which we're not making right now, right? The product is balanced, just call it balanced female. Progest liposome cream, and she was also on the HGH. Within, I would say, a matter of 3 months, I had a phone call from Dwayne. He says, Eldon, I got some good news and bad news to share with you. I said, well, let's start with the good news. He says, we're pregnant. And I said, well, what's the bad news? She's got twins.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, yeah, and now they have, I think, 4 children. And it just brought their body into a state of alignment and totally normal now. And they tried to go the whole medical route, and it just was not working. So this is where I say that there are things that are in the domain, and I don't think they're common. They're not common. We created products that are specific for men. Our fiery male is specific for men's libido and performance, and it can be used as a daily supplement for their health. And so we put L-arginine in it, the fermented, and 15 other male-orientated directed products for their health. Now, it makes a huge difference in a person's life. It can be used for pre-workout. You get energy, gives you stamina, and you'll notice a difference. The beauty about when you produce a product using the best ingredients in the planet is they'll work. Try it. 3 capsules. Try it if you can handle it, because it's very, very potent. Well, you may not handle it. I've had people, young guys, that are taking 3 fiery male before they go in the gym, and they say, "Holy cow, that's stronger than anything I can imagine." That's how it's supposed to be when you produce a product using pharmaceutical grade raw material, and you use it with the purest ingredients and formulated with the right ingredients, with no flow agents and no if you look at the non-medicinal ingredients in some vitamin product, I'm going to do a video on that soon, comparing the two. It's just toxic. Just toxic. It shouldn't even be put in the body. You should bury it. Don't buy it. So this is what it is, and so this product really works for men. And so if they take also extra zinc, these are very good. And then HGH, for men 20 plus, HGH, it's a godsend. I mean, it's a gift. You're going to just love how you feel. You're going to feel better. And then you need to take a good multivitamin. And I would suggest our super multivitamin, our plant-based. This will cover your bases, but you also need your minerals. So take the OptiCal Mag with K2. So these aren't a lot of products to take, but it is to work your body in a progressive manner. So you're preventing things from deteriorating. And of course, men can take Sopimento, Pygeum. I did produce a product called Healthy Male, and it worked tremendously, but we didn't sell enough, so we may bring it back again. It's tremendous for men with prostate issues. So zinc is good. Of course, there's a whole dietary thing. I think I have it on our website. You can go in the diet for prostate health, and so it's not if, but it's when. The prostate will affect men. And I have the product we made, Thyrodyne, the first of its kind in the world, thyroid gland. It's true. The world is thyroid deficient, one way or the other. Everyone is affected, from children. It's just that we don't have it. Thyroid health is under attack. It's a crisis. It's a massive crisis. If you want to call that a pandemic, I'll get behind that one.
Yeah, because it reaches all borders, right? There's no age, nothing
it's
affected.
Global.
Yeah,
It's global. And the Thyrodyne, we brought it out, changed it from prescription drug status to natural health product status, the first of its kind in our industry. And the number one drug is being sold is Synthroid. And they also make Levocynthroid, and 126 million prescriptions written per year in the United States alone. It's because that's how big it is, and especially women, 5 to 8 times more prevalent in women. So these are the things that we can make a big difference with, and I think it is just to really be conscious and to think prevention, and to see that everything is not as it should be in our world today. And we have to take charge of our life and our health, and we have to work on preventing things from happening rather than to deal with it when they come.
So let's talk just for a little minute here on the effect that a big beer belly has on being able to get a firm erection, because we're talking male's health. So from what I understand about that belly is it's its own organ, it's its own blood supply, and it's pulling from your blood supply. And if you don't have blood flow, things ain't gonna work right. So let's talk a little bit about that big gut and when you should start getting concerned? Because I know it's is it a 36 and above, 36-inch waist? You have to start watching that. I mean, you should watch it beforehand, but what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, obesity is a real crisis. I mean, you can't. There's only so much blood flow, and of course that affects your digestion and your digestive tract, and it affects your colon. And your colon, I would say, when you look at somebody that's obese, they probably have anywhere from 30 to 40 pounds of inorganic plaque within their colon, like rubber boots. And so they are, because they're not absorbing their food. And so what they're doing is they're eating and eating and eating. They're taking in, empty calories, but the villi within their intestinal tract can't pick up the food because it's blocked. Mm-hmm. It's blocked with this rubber. And so the more they eat, the bigger they become. And they're actually starving themselves from the nutrients that they need because the body can't survive. And of course, the blood flow. And so your gut is an extremely important part for men's health too. For when I treat patients, the first thing I treat is the gut health. I put them on Lactocan probiotic because that will regulate and balance the intestinal flora. And then I put them on the full spectrum digestive enzyme, which has ox bile, and that helps to break down the food in your diet. And then you have to, for those that are having, that are obese, it's going to affect your longevity. You won't live as long. They proved that those that had COVID and those that were obese, it raised their level of mortality by 60%. Mm-hmm. So yeah. We're talking, it's a health crisis in the making. And what we do is we don't drink enough water either. We don't flush our body system out. And I like to look at it as an example, as if you're doing a load of laundry. And you get your laundry, you put it in there, and you take 1 cup of water and throw it in, and you throw all your soap in, and you spin it up. How clean do you think your clothes are going to be?
Mm-hmm. There you go. That's a great analogy. Great analogy.
I'll give that to my wife because she came up with that one.
Good job, wifey.
Yeah, so I mean, she won't let me do laundry either. But so what it is we have to hydrate our body. We have to flush out the toxins. You need to drink 2 or 3 liters of water, pure, clean water. Not the stuff from the tap usually. You got to make sure it's clean. Don't buy Nestle stuff. Mm-hmm. And have clean water. Start flushing your systems from the toxins. Be conscious of the food that you eat. Move. I don't care how much, but move. You need to move. You need to exercise. Sitting is almost like smoking, they say, on the crisis level. So you need to move. You need to get active. You don't have to go run the marathon. But what you need to do is you need to move your body. You need to not sit all the time, not sit in front of a TV set, not sit at your desk. You need to move. Go for a walk with your kids or your family, or even on your own. Just walk. Just do some calisthenics in the morning. Not a day I don't start off with doing exercise 40 minutes every morning, but it's so part of me now that I just can't go throughout the day. I just know the difference that it makes. Mm-hmm. So we have to be first conscious that we want to live longer in a healthy state. We have to look at our body as a temple. Mm-hmm. So what you put into the body, you need to take that and bring it in and be conscious of what you're taking in. And you need to be able to flush your body from toxins. And you need to have regular bowel movements. I mean, this is very important because most people that are obese are also constipated. And of course, all these toxins are floating through your system. And then we have, well, there's so many factors that they're attacking humanity today. It's just overwhelming. Most people that are obese, they also have liver issues. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disorder affects up to 60 to 70% of the population. So this is what we call the silent killer. And so, this non-alcoholic fatty liver disorder is that it breaks down the liver. And when the liver breaks down, of course, then you're not producing the proper bile, because usually your gallbladder is under attack too, because it works hand in hand. So your gallbladder and your liver work hand in hand. So you're not producing the bile from your gallbladder. And you see a lot of men having gallbladders removed, or their gallbladders doesn't function. They burp and they can't digest properly. It's the gallbladder and the liver. And so when the gallbladder is compromised, then the liver must produce the bile, and the liver is already toxic. So how do your body function? So then you can't even get through the day or walking up the flight of stairs without breathing, heavily breathing. Well, how are you going to get an erection? You got to look at it and say, damn it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not even though you may call it your little body, it's not an entity on its own. It works with your body. And so when you bring the body into a state of balance, when you cleanse the body, you bring it into a place where your body can heal itself. This is the whole thing. Pharmaceutical drugs aren't going to do it because you only treat the symptom of the condition. So what you need to do is be conscious. You need to make calculated decisions. You need to use some critical thinking. How you eat, when you eat. Don't eat after 7 o'clock at night. Drink a lot of fluids. For breakfast, start off with a squeezed lemon and water. Squeeze lemon and water, that about half a teaspoon to 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Mix it together and drink that down. It'll settle your stomach. It'll regulate it. It'll get the gut in order. Then fruit in the morning. How many are eating fruit? I mean, good fruit. Not something from a can.
Would you wait after the baking soda and lemon juice to eat, because you don't want to neutralize your stomach acid, right? You want to wait a little bit.
Well, then you start preparing your food.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do that first thing in the morning. Come down. I don't just have those two. I have my concoction.
Right.
Yeah. I take a teaspoon of vitamin C from pure vitamin C that we have non-GMO in that, and that's how I start my day. And then I start to eat the diet, but you need to have fruit. It would be good to have fruit only till noon. Don't eat fruit after noon, because your body doesn't absorb it that way. Your body works through a cycle, a 24-hour cycle. We have for digesting, for elimination, and for absorption. So this is what we have to work on. And so don't drink fluids with your meals. No fluids. 15 minutes before, or up to an hour, depending on what you eat after, because it takes away the digestive enzymes. Your body break down your food. The water neutralizes it, and so your digestion is compromised. And don't have sugars on the end, like dessert. The whole way we eat here in North America is totally wrong. We shouldn't be eating that way, with carbohydrates and proteins together. We should be changing that. We shouldn't have fruits, and we shouldn't have dessert at the end of the meal. We shouldn't be drinking a bunch of water. It's the first thing they give you when you walk into a restaurant, is give you water and water. Why? Just watch the people just drinking water and water. Oh boy, you don't know what you're doing to your body. These are simple things.
Yeah. Interesting. And I know there's a school of thought too. Like, I follow the glucose goddess, and she says to actually, because you think about the glycemic impact that sugar has on your system, And she says, if you're going to have a dessert, have it after your meal because it has to go through the fiber of your vegetables and the way you eat. She's like, eat your vegetables first, then your meats and fats, then your starches, because that slows the glycemic load. So she said, don't ever start your morning with a bagel, cream cheese, and jam. She said you should have something before that, and she shows the spike, right? Because I honestly believe that insulin, we've got a bunch of metabolic syndrome running around too. And I think that insulin, and you probably know this, that insulin is a huge driver of disease, whether you have it or not. And keeping stabilized insulin levels can completely change your life. I believe that thoroughly. What are your thoughts on insulin and how it works in the body?
Oh yeah, because this is why so many people are pre-diabetic, and diabetic is because and also a factor when you have the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. When it's not treated, it turns into diabetes, pre-diabetes, and then so you have diabetes problems, and then after that's not dealt with, then it works into a cardiovascular issue. So you start having strokes. So what we find is that insulin factor is very prevalent in today's society because of the diet that we're eating and how we're eating. We're eating completely wrong. So I would say have fruit in the morning first, and then have your other meals later. Have your heavier meals at more noon. Have your lighter meals at nighttime. Allow your body to be empty when you sleep. You may be hungry in this nature, but you're going to start to lose weight. Your body will absorb food much better. And so for keeping your sugars under control, I start off always every morning with chromium picolinate or either vanadil sulfate. We used to sell them both too, but of course I couldn't educate people on the difference of the quality. So you have to find out how to get a good chromium picolinate. And so this is very, very helpful in regulating your blood sugar levels. But diet, of course, is a key factor. It's the main thing. And eating properly at the right times and what you eat. And go to bed when you can still eat more. And when you're eating, if you could eat more, you don't need to. Unless you're a woodcutter out there and you're working in the salt mine, then go ahead and eat because you're going to be burning it off. But if you're sitting behind a desk, you don't need a 23-inch or 3, ounce steak.
Yeah. Well, and I just did an Ayurveda retreat on Saturday, and they said you should eat slowly, which makes sense because you'll really feel fuller. She said, and when you feel that first burp come up, you're 75% full and you should stop eating. So you should never stuff yourself, she said, because then you don't have the air to churn the food in your stomach. And then you have enough like hydrochloric acid liquid ratio to your food. So it's just going to be better. But as far as eating after 7, that's totally makes sense. And I've been doing that myself the last little bit. You have better sleeps because your body can focus on rest and repair and not have to digest the supper that you just had an hour before or the snack you just had. You will have a much better, more restful sleep.
Oh yeah. And alcohol, of course, affects it too.
Yeah.
So we and even pot, marijuana, that affects it too. It lowers your libido. So there's a lot of factors in sugary drinks. You want to stay away from that. You got to read your labels and your food. You got to watch your drinks, what you have. All hidden sugars. There's so many hidden sugars in foods today.
What about artificial sweeteners? Because people think, well, this has sucralose or this has aspartame in it. It doesn't have sugar. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they don't understand that it all turns into sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and your body actually uses sugar, right? Your body uses carbohydrate, like it converts carbs into sugars, which are usable, where when you have a fake sugar like sucralose, your body still keeps craving sugar because it's not getting that hit too, right? Because sucralose is a little bit different. It's
a deception. The food industry that they created just to make it taste good, but it's toxic. So, it disrupts your microbiome in your gut, doesn't it? Artificial sweeteners. Yeah, it it just it creates you in a system of out of balance. I don't look at disease and non-disease. I look at balanced and unbalanced. A disease state is a state out of balance. And what you need to do is you have to create holistically a body where you can bring your body back into a state of balance. And this is several factors, what we already discussed on your diet. And your lifestyle changes, but then your body comes into a state where it can start to heal itself. But when you keep piling it on, the body has no way to function properly, and it starts to decline. And then, of course, the disease state happens, and then, of course, you go the medical route. Well, they'll be just giving you drug after drug after drug, and you're going to have an early grave. I'm sorry to say, but that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So that's awesome. I hope that cutting out didn't affect too much, but even in the second half, we were able to cover quite a bit of stuff a little concisely, I'm going to say. So it is 3:06 on my end here, and I want to be I want to respect your time as well here. So thanks for your expertise on this. I know I love your thyroidine supplement. When I start to lose a little bit more hair in the shower, I start to feel, it's like, oh, thyroidine time. I pretty much stay on it all the time. And I have my daughter on it. She's 12 or 13. It was showing she needed some iodine. I'm like, no, you're just going to get the whole meal deal, and you're going to get thyroidine instead. So, and then HGH as well is a awesome product. I need to be a bit more consistent, but that's something you also cycle on and off of. It's 3 weeks on, a week off. Is that what HGH is?
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. And it's homeopathic, so it's not a source of HGH. It's all the glands that are responsible for making. It's a homeopathic preparation from those gland secretions, or the glands, right? Or the glands.
It has an anterior pituitary gland. This is where you release your growth hormone. It has adrenal, thyroid, and insulin, of a homeopathic insulin, to work with your body for your glycogen levels. And so this product it'll regulate your hormone levels. And you'll find men, when they hit a certain age, 40 years of age, they lose up to 30% of their muscle tone. And this is just the aging process. And when you take the HGH, you restore these. And so one day we'll have to have a talk on anti-aging, because that's my specialty, on the aging process, of what you can do to prevent aging of a premature nature. Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely do it. I could probably sit on the line here with you for a few more hours and pick your brain. It's just amazing. So I appreciate you taking some time to just talk a little bit on men's health from a man yourself and from the naturopathic point of view. And it's not really that complex. You know, you have to look at what you're taking in order to be able to put out what you want to put out. And just kind of, matching your output to your input, and just kind of just doing a bit of a calculation and an inventory of, maybe I should cut out those, 10 beer a night if I want to perform better, or if I want to get up and feel better. It's just taking a little bit more inventory and taking time for yourself. As men, I'm sure you guys, you have your own way of going all the time. And so, like you said, scheduling in that workout in the morning, or that whatever regimen can set your day and set the tone for your day, be a bit more consistent of it. And according to Ayurveda right now, it's the season of routine. Stick with your routine, and it's just going to take you to different levels. So just make sure your routine is a little healthier, if that's what your goal is, right? Like, it's just, it's good.
You have to be conscientious, for one thing. You have to see that we are aging at a rate that we should not be aging this quickly. There's environmental toxins that are attacking us. We are a weaker species today than we were before. There are factors that we can do, but we need to be cognizant of the fact. We need to go back. We have to see things and evaluate. We need to use critical thinking. And we have to take our health as a way that you're going to take charge of your life. You're going to live your life healthy to the day that you die, and you'll probably die of natural causes. You don't want to die and be a ward of the state. You don't want to end up in some home, or you don't want to be subjected that you're going to be on multiple drugs. We don't have to. It's a choice. It's a conscientious choice. But if you don't know that there's another way, you'll just follow what everyone else does. So prevention is the key, but you need to do some education, and you need to take charge of your life and do it from an area of prevention. And I think if you do that and you follow the things that we discussed today, you're going to be healthier. You're going to feel better. You're going to perform sexually, and you're going to be doing pretty good.
Well, can't really argue with that, can ya? That's awesome. Thanks again, Eldon.